Good evening. Happy Wednesday night. This is Dr. Andrew Merrill here in downtown Orlando at Nightlight Chiropractic. And every week we do this little snippet video for our patients and our viewers who want to know more about the different alternatives they have to healthcare here in the United States and I guess across the world. But we typically will find the different questions and concerns that our patients have and that our viewers have, kind of summarize them into who's asking what and who wants to know about what, and then from there we'll kind of chop it up and find the most pertinent questions that we are getting from our patients and from you, the viewers. So let's jump right into it. This evening we're getting a lot of questions about which over-the-counter pain medication is best for neck pain, back pain, and headaches. And this is a really, really common thing, right? I mean, if you think about your medicine cabinet at home, it is chock full of all kinds of substances. How do you pick which one you take? Is it just trial and error? Is it based on what your mom told you to do or what one of your parents told you to do a long time ago? Is it based on what your friends say is best to treat, pain or certain conditions? And so we want to review what your different options are and why they might be the good or bad choice for what you have going on, right? So let's dive right into it here. All we're trying to do is treat pain, right? So when we're talking about these over-the-counter pain relievers, all they're doing is treating the symptom of pain, and pain is a symptom, right? When you're having pain, it is a symptom of something else going wrong in your body, some haywire misconnection of nerves or chemicals in your body that are signaling this pain, or just tissue damage, right? So the actual act of pain that we're experiencing or inflammation comes from this arachidonic acid cascade. And I'm going to try and keep this as non-chemistry as I can because in learning it, and if Dr. David Seaman ever sees this, he might just shake his head because the chemistry is really hard. It's really, really difficult to understand kind of how this arachidonic acid kind of breaks down into all these other enzymes and chemicals that then kind of fuel pain and the different reactions that happen. It's not like a couple step process. There's thousands of processes going on all at the same time, and so to kind of keep track of each piece and chemical it's really just a nightmare mess. And so anyways, let's say it like this. Arachidonic acid is the kind of the fuel that then breaks into all these different enzymes that then tells your body we need to create inflammation, we need white blood cells mobilizing to the area, we need to tell the brain that there's pain going on, we need to add some extra fluid and some edema over here, and this is all just as a result of some either real or perceived injury to tissue, right? And so that's how these different chemicals work, is by blocking different parts of that arachidonic acid cascade. That's it. End of the chemistry lesson. So let's jump right into what's what, right? So the different choices that you have are NSAIDs, right? NSAIDs is a big group of chemicals, and we're going to go over those. We're going to go over acetaminophen, or otherwise known as Tylenol. And I brought a bunch of props here. I'm so excited. I have all kinds of these props. I went and kind of raided Target to get all these different medications and bottles of pills here so that we can talk about them this evening. But I want you to see kind of how the bottle matches up to what we're talking about as an example, because I got to tell you, I was overwhelmed in Target. I was so overwhelmed in Target because there's this aisle and it's just called pain relief, right? The aisle is called pain relief, and it is literally an entire aisle full of chemicals and medications. Like, if I can't navigate that, and I kind of know what I'm doing, I mean, how is the general consumer supposed to navigate that? You just kind of like close your eyes and grab something because you need something, you're in pain. You have acetaminophen or Tylenol, and then we're going to lump everything else that we talk about tonight into others, right? So it's weird. You have this huge aisle full of stuff, and it really just kind of boils down into two main groups of over-the-counter pain relievers that we have here in the United States. Anyways, jumping right into it. So NSAIDs is the first chemical that we're going to talk about. Ibuprofen, actually I think that's probably going to come up backwards for you guys, but ibuprofen is one of the main NSAIDs. And NSAID stands for non-steroidal anti-inflammatory. So steroids reduce inflammation, and that's good and well enough, except steroids have all kinds of bad side effects, which is why they're not over the counter here in the United States. So we have these non-steroidal anti-inflammatories. And what these do is they actually block part of that production of cyclooxygenases, and prostaglandins that then cause some of those symptoms, not just of pain, but also of inflammation and swelling. And that's important, right? So I think if you have been watching some of this series, you're going to know that when we talk about tissue injury, we sometimes talk about secondary tissue injury that happens. You sprain your ankle, and then all of this fluid and all these white blood cells go to the area, and what ends up happening is they block all the red blood cells, so you end up getting more cells that die as a result of all of that stuff that's in the way. So this stuff actually does a great job to block the swelling and inflammation that happens so that you don't get some of that secondary injury that occurs as well. Here's the problem with these guys, right? They have a really bad track record as far as how safe they are for you. So like I just said, there's an entire aisle full of these things over there at Target or anywhere. Everywhere you go, you're going to find an entire aisle full of these pain relieving products. And they end up killing about 16,000 people per year. 16,000 people here in the United States per year end up dying of these NSAIDs. And I'm not talking about overdoses, right? This is not overdoses. This is not somebody is trying to take the wrong amount of these. This is not because somebody didn't know what they were doing and just took a handful of them. This is people who are taking these the way that the bottle says to take them, except they don't stop when they're supposed to stop, right? So if you listen to kind of the pharmacy community, if you listen to a lot of the medical community, they're talking about if you're using this for more than a couple of weeks, as the bottle tells you to, you should go back to your doctor and try and figure out what's causing the symptoms and what we need to do to make this go away, all right? A couple of weeks. Now, I know somebody, I know lots of people, and you probably know some people too, that take this stuff every day for decades. For a long, long time, people take this stuff, and that's what ends up causing 16,000 people per year to die. That's the 15th leading cause of death here in the United States. What the 15th leading cause of death in the United States is people taking this over-the-counter medication correctly. Not opioids, not any illicit drugs. These are things that we are told that we can take to manage swelling and inflammation and pain, and people are just continuing to take them for a long time until they end up with issues. So how do these things end up actually killing you, right? It's not like instantaneous. You don't just take 2 or 3 and then suddenly you keel over and die. They do a couple different things. So they cause GI bleeding, right? So your gastrointestinal system ends up starting to have this ulceration. It ends up having these holes cut into it, kind of. And then over long term, that ends up being a big complication as far as bleeding goes from your stomach, from your intestines, and then it causes complications, and then you end up passing away from it in the hospital. The other way that it causes injury or death is by increasing your risk of heart attack and stroke. And this actually was in the news quite a bit a few years ago with something called Vioxx. And they had this new brand of medication. And these are not over the counter, so I'm getting a little bit off track here. But they have these new COX-2 inhibitors, which are like super specific NSAIDs that only block one little piece of that arachidonic acid cascade. And by blocking that one little piece, they can be a little bit more specific about how they do their job in a good way. Here's the problem. This Vioxx, at least, increased the risk of heart attack and stroke so much that it got pulled off the market very, very quickly because it was shown to be inferior than these NSAIDs, which you can buy for $10 or whatever, and it was actually causing more death. So Vioxx got pulled off the market. There's still Celebrex is still out there as a COX-2 inhibitor that has been shown to be safer and have a similar profile to NSAIDs, but they're dangerous, right? So even though this is kind of the go-to for sprains and strains and muscle aches and back aches, it's not without its limitations and its problems because there's a real risk to them. So if you're taking any of the substances that we're talking about that are kind of found in that aisle in Target, you need to make sure that you're using it like it's supposed to be used, which is a couple weeks at a time, and then if your pain is not gone, you have to figure out plan B, whatever plan B is, whether it's coming here, whether it's going to your medical doctor, whether it's doing whatever. It cannot be just continuing to take this again and again and again forever. Okay, so real quick too, this Aleve also falls in that NSAID category. In fact, all of these have NSAID on them somewhere. So if you look really closely, you'll always see NSAID on these bottles. So if you're trying to pick out the right medication, all of these NSAIDs fall into that spectrum. They block pain, they block inflammation, but they also increase your risk of heart attack, stroke, and gastrointestinal bleeding. It's much worse in the elderly than in younger patients. Even still, if you're a younger patient now, you don't want us to be taking this stuff 10 years from now because you are going to be that older patient then who's at risk. Okay, so skipping right to the next part, we're going to talk about acetaminophen real quick. And acetaminophen is Tylenol. Man, I wish this wasn't backwards for you guys because it's harder to read. It looks like Lanyoltal or whatever. But Tylenol is an acetaminophen, and it works slightly differently on that arachidonic acid cascade that's blocking different enzymes that create pain. So it's just blocking prostaglandins that create pain. So it's not doing anything for the swelling or inflammation, and that's really important, right? So if you have a headache, acetaminophen might be a good go-to, and Excedrin is just like acetaminophen. I don't think I bought a bottle of that, but Excedrin falls into this acetaminophen category, so it's good for headaches because headache is really more just pain than it is inflammation. So for headaches, maybe Tylenol, but acetaminophen is much less risky than NSAIDs, right? So if NSAIDs end up killing 16,000 people a year, which again, it's weird because if you look in the literature, sometimes they bring that number down a little bit closer to like 5,000, but that's still a real number. It's not like nothing. But acetaminophen, the risk with it or the danger with it is that the therapeutic dose and the overdose dose are pretty darn tight in there, right? You really want to make sure you're following the instructions on this to a T, and you're not taking it with alcohol. Right, so really common is like hangover cure or whatever is the Tylenol. Probably not your best choice for that. None of this stuff actually is probably your best choice for that. But Tylenol is blocking pain, not blocking inflammation. Probably going to get lesser results for most musculoskeletal type events. However, much less risky, much less dangerous. As long as you avoid taking it with alcohol. Quick caveat too, you need to take food with all of these things. In fact, for the NSAID specifically, they showed that if you take omeprazole, which is an over-the-counter proton pump inhibitor, it's for GERD, it's for acid reflux. If you take omeprazole while you're taking this, what you end up getting is less ulceration of your stomach lining. So it might be a good idea to take some omeprazole at the same time as you're taking that, but definitely taking some food with all of these different things. They also say milk. I don't know why they say milk. They're like, you can also, instead of food, you can take it with milk. I don't want to take anything with milk. I think milk's kind of gross anyways, but I certainly don't want to take my medication with milk. So take it with some food. Skipping right on past acetaminophen, which is safer but probably less effective for most aches and pains, we are going to jump into one of my favorites or something that we carry here. So I did not buy this out of the aisle at Target. We carry this here. This is standard process. This is called turmeric fort or turmeric, right? So you've heard of turmeric before, hopefully. It's a spice. It's going to be stored in your pantry or in your kitchen in your house, not in your medicine cabinet maybe. But turmeric is a spice from Southeast Asia, and when you put it on your food, it's kind of orangey and yellowy in color, and it's a powder, and basically it's going to make your food taste kind of spicy, like ginger or garlicky maybe, but it always makes it taste like that, which is why I don't necessarily like putting it into my food. Anyways, I love turmeric because turmeric is also blocking part of that arachidonic acid cascade, right? So all we need to do is block that part, and you're still getting that anti-inflammatory, anti-pain stuff. Oh, I like that, Emily. I'm seeing your comment here, Emily, about taking the ibuprofen with the omeprazole. It's a fantastic idea, and it works. It works really well. So anyways, turmeric falls into another class with ginger, where it doesn't have side effects, right? So, I mean, they were studying this stuff, and I was just reading today, they say that you can take up to 8,000 milligrams of this stuff daily without any side effects, basically infinitum, forever. You can just take this stuff, like it can be part of your diet as a pill form, and I do recommend it as a pill form. And the reason is not just because you don't want to feel like you're eating Southeast Asian food your entire life, but it is also because you know exactly what dose you're getting. So 8,000 milligrams would be this entire bottle every single day. And I don't necessarily recommend that. I think that you can probably get away with a much smaller therapeutic dose, but it's interesting because this doesn't have any risks. This isn't killing anybody. This isn't, nobody's even tracking the number that could be associated with deaths from this because it's not a real number. It's not a thing. So turmeric and ginger are fantastic ideas to limit that swelling and inflammation as well. I do recommend taking a little bit more of them than you would take of the NSAIDs or the acetaminophen. However, no side effects. Like why wouldn't you try that first? Or as you're transitioning, so you take this for a couple weeks and it's not getting better. So then you reach for the turmeric and start taking turmeric and start taking the ginger. So So Emily here is asking me a question about how quickly can you see results from taking turmeric. And although I don't think it's immediate, I think it's pretty darn quick, like a day or two, you're going to see some results of it limiting how much inflammation happens. However, I think that it definitely has a peak therapeutic time frame. I have not looked at the research on this, so I don't want to misquote, but you're going to get very quick results, and then the more that you take over a timeline, I think that you're going to see that result build. And it brings me to one more substance that I like to talk about is fish oil. And every time I bring this up, I have to say this. It's like on autoplay in my brain. But fish oil is fantastic because it also limits inflammation, but on a different aspect of how that arachidonic acid cascade happens. Fish oil builds cells that kind of bypass that arachidonic acid cascade, so you're building tissues that don't have so much inflammation to begin with. That substance actually takes a while to build up in your body. So unlike turmeric or ginger, where you end up getting pretty quick results and quick reduction in inflammation and swelling, fish oil actually you have to take for about a month or two before it starts to reduce pain. However, it's been shown that fish oil can help to reduce that pain to a level better than ibuprofen after that first month build-up time frame. So anyways, that is all I have for this evening about this substance. If you have more questions or comments, just like Miss Emily is doing here in the comment section, you can find me in the comment section here later this evening. I will be kind of dabbling and watching, and if you have specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. I go strictly by the research that I can find here and reputable sources, so none of this stuff is particularly my own or even an opinion piece on this, except the milk, man. Don't take your medicine with milk. That's just weird. Anyways, that is it. If you want to find me here, you can go to nightlightchiropractic.com and find me. If you want to find more information, you can go to drandrewmerrillblog.com. All kinds of fantastic information there. Otherwise, have a wonderful evening. Have a wonderful rest of your week and weekend. And I will see you next Wednesday for another Wednesday Night Wellness Live. Good night.